Hello and welcome to this presentation about U.S. anti-boycott laws. This program is another in the 10-minute tips series for credit and collection professionals. My name is Michael Dennis. I'll be your presenter today. Let's begin with an introduction. If you're a U.S.-based company, you should know that the U.S. has anti-boycott laws. These laws were adopted by the federal government to ensure that companies in the U.S. do not act in a way that undermines U.S. foreign policy. Under these federal laws, U.S. companies are required to refuse to participate in foreign boycotts that are not sanctioned by the U.S. government. In America, our laws prevent companies from being used to implement foreign policies of other nations, and more specifically, policies that run counter to the stated interests of the United States. An example of a foreign boycott is the Arab League boycott of Israel, and that specific boycott is likely to be the principal foreign economic boycott that you will run into as a credit professional. Export Administration Regulations. You should be aware that federal anti-boycott laws apply to everyone. They apply to individuals, they apply to companies of every type that are located in the U.S., as well as to the foreign affiliates of those U.S.-based companies. Affiliates would include affiliated companies and, of course, subsidiary companies. Federal anti-boycott laws also apply to U.S. individuals that are working abroad, overseas. U.S. anti-boycott laws address the sale or the purchase or the transfer of goods and services between the U.S. and any foreign country. They also involve U.S. exports and imports, and they relate in any way to financing, forwarding, or shipping of goods internationally. Prohibited activities under U.S. export laws. These include agreements to discriminate or actual discrimination against other persons based on race, religion, sex, national origin, or nationality. Prohibited activities include agreements to furnish or actually furnishing information about business relationships with or in Israel or with any other blacklisted country. Prohibited activities include agreements to furnish or actually furnishing information to a third party about race, religion, sex, or national origin of another person. Prohibited activities also include shipping against and presenting documents in support of letters of credit containing prohibited boycott terms and conditions. As a credit professional, you should be aware that there are penalties that can be applied when companies violate U.S. anti-boycott regulations and/or export control regulations. So the penalties, the financial penalties for each knowing violation, can be a fine of up to 5 times the value of the exports involved. The penalty can also involve imprisonment, and the penalty can also involve denial of export privileges. I want to speak just for a moment about this third option in terms of penalties, the denial of export privileges. That actually can be the most significant penalty that the government applies. And let me explain that statement with an example. Let's assume that your company, as the exporter, as the creditor, as the seller, as the shipper, has done something in violation of U.S. export laws in connection with a shipment to Iceland. And as a consequence, one of the penalties that the government is considering applying is a denial of export privileges. That denial would not necessarily apply only to Iceland. That could apply to all of your exports anywhere in the world. Your company could be denied the right to ship any product internationally to any company in any country anywhere in the world for a specific period of time. And if your company makes a significant portion of its revenue and profits through international sales, obviously that could be potentially devastating to the shipper, to the exporting company. Reporting requirements. US-based companies are required to report actual anti-boycott violations once they have been discovered to the federal government. With that said, I would strongly recommend that before providing any voluntary self-disclosure of your company's violation of government regulations, that you discuss this with your attorney. U.S. companies are also required to report on a quarterly basis requests that your company violate U.S. anti-boycott laws. Please note, many U.S.-based companies fail to provide this required reporting to the U.S. government. Here are some examples of unlawful language that you might expect to appear in a sales contract or perhaps on a purchase order or some other document that you might receive from a customer or a potential customer in a foreign country. It might say, as an example on the PO, goods of Israeli origin are not acceptable, or this order is placed subject to the requirement that the supplier, meaning you, is not on the Israeli boycott list. The vessel carrying these goods may not enter an Arab port. The supplier shall comply with the laws of Yemen relating to the boycott of Israel. The supplier, meaning you, shall not use any products or services provided by an entity on the blacklist published by Oman. Other examples of potentially problematic language. The supplier warrants that the products contain no components imported from Mexico. Please respond to this question. Has your company ever had a branch, factory, or office in Israel? Does your company own any stock in any company headquartered in Israel? Please indicate the name and nationality of your 10 largest shareholders. The bill of lading must state that the vessel delivering the product shall not be on the published blacklist of Egypt. By the way, all of the examples on these 2 pages are real-world examples. These are all examples of clauses that I have found on purchase orders or in contracts or elsewhere from foreign buyers interested in purchasing from me, or they've come from my client companies as a consultant. They sometimes ask me questions about questionable language like this. Thank you for your time and attention. I hope you found this very brief presentation on U.S. anti-boycott laws to be interesting and helpful. If you are interested in hearing the entire 1-hour presentation on this topic, please contact the Sponsoring Credit Association for more information. And have a great day. Thanks again.